A firestorm erupted when former President Barack Obama publicly accused Donald J. Trump, the 45th and 47th President of the United States, of manipulating the legal system for political ends. In a stunning turn of events, Trump delivered a swift and devastating rebuttal that left his detractors across the country speechless. What began as a televised assault transformed into one of Trump's most legendary counterattacks, leaving the audience in shock and the media scrambling. This charged confrontation sparked a nationwide conversation about influence, justice, and political hypocrisy in America. Under the intense heat of the studio lights, former President Barack Obama leaned forward, his gaze locked on the camera as his voice, sharp and measured, reached millions of live viewers. His words were like daggers. I have grown deeply troubled by the escalating trend of authoritarianism. We are witnessing politicians attacking civil society, undermining a free press, and exploiting the judicial system, with no one being immune. The atmosphere in the studio became thick with tension. The target of his remarks was unmistakable. Every person watching knew he was referring to President Donald J. Trump. Obama moved closer, announcing that his foundation was developing a strategy to safeguard democracy. At that moment, a wave of whispers swept the nation. While some applauded Obama's audacity, a larger number felt a sense of unease. Something seemed amiss. His speech felt less like a genuine warning and more like a calculated, premeditated strike. The broadcast then shifted to Trump, who sat composed, his expression impassive. For a brief, silent moment, the outcome was uncertain. However, the American public understood one thing about Trump: he never allowed an attack to go unanswered. The tension mounted, hearts raced, and the audience held its breath. Across the country, in living rooms, diners, and airports, all eyes were fixed on the screen. Obama had just leveled the accusation that Trump was perverting justice for political leverage. Authoritarianism, Obama reiterated with rising inflection. We have a duty to defend our democracy from leaders who misuse their power for selfish motives. The statement was a venomous sting. For Trump's supporters, it was an outrageous insult. For undecided voters, it was deeply troubling. But for Trump himself, it was a declaration of war. The camera returned to him. He straightened his tie, leaned into the microphone, and his eyes glinted with a fire familiar only to his closest confidants. He started with a deliberate pace. As Donald J. Trump, the 47th President of the United States, I am here to correct the narrative. A murmur went through the studio audience. Some gasped. Others whispered. It was the quiet preceding a hurricane. Trump paused, looking directly into the lens as if addressing every American in their home. The suspense was palpable. Children watched wide-eyed beside their parents. Seniors drew nearer to their televisions, and reporters readied their devices. Then, Trump launched his counter-assault. His voice was firm, yet sharp as steel. The establishment's smooth-talking favorite, Barack Obama, dares to school me on the weaponization of justice. Folks, let's be real. His audacity is more astounding than one of Sleepy Joe's long naps. The audience reacted with a mix of laughter and shocked gasps. Trump remained unfazed. Allow me to remind everyone who transformed the FBI and DOJ into partisan weapons. It wasn't I, it was Obama. Remember the Russia collusion narrative of 2016? That was his FBI's creation. Fabricated dossiers, surveillance on my campaign, wiretaps, all lies intended to manipulate an election against me and against you. The American people. He leaned in with greater intensity. For Obama to preach about justice is like Al Capone lecturing on tax compliance. Give me a break. A wave of shock went through the studio. Some attendees covered their mouths, while journalists furiously took notes. On social platforms, related hashtags trended almost instantly. It was then apparent that Trump was not merely defending his position, he was preparing to systematically unveil years of alleged corruption. And Obama's polished facade was beginning to show fissures. The audience grew restless as Trump's remarks resonated. Some applauded, while others seemed stunned. Obama leaned back, his jaw clenching, attempting to project calm. However, a flicker in his eyes betrayed the internal turmoil. Trump continued, his voice unwavering and gaining strength. And let's not forget, Obama's administration prosecuted journalists more aggressively than any before. He weaponized the Espionage Act to silence whistleblowers and suppress the very freedoms he now claims to champion. The silence was profound. Even reporters typically critical of Trump exchanged glances, recalling stories they had once downplayed. Families at home were captivated, with fathers shaking their heads and mothers whispering, "This is the truth they never report." The cameras switched back to Obama, who, for the first time, lacked a polished response. He took a sip of water, a subtle indicator of his discomfort. In households nationwide, tears formed in the eyes of ordinary citizens, patriots who had felt unheard for so long. They sensed Trump wasn't just speaking for himself, he was speaking for them. Trump leaned forward, punctuating the air with his finger. "Obama talks about democracy, but what about his wars? He expanded our military conflicts from 2 to 7. He authorized bombings on innocent men, women, and children as if it were a video game, weddings, funerals, entire villages, resulting in thousands of deaths. And this is the man who wants to lecture me about compassion and leadership. It's absurd." The gravity of his words struck the audience. Gasps reverberated throughout the studio. Some of Obama's supporters looked down, while others shook their heads, as if awakening to a difficult reality. Trump's voice grew more powerful. "I am the first president in decades who didn't start a new war." Meanwhile, Obama fueled the military-industrial complex, catered to globalists, and accepted a Nobel Peace Prize he didn't even earn. He paused before delivering a stunning assertion. He was awarded that prize for one reason, and it wasn't for achieving peace. He received it because he was black. The room erupted. There were shocked gasps, nervous laughter, and scattered applause. The revelation went viral on social media, with live reactions flooding feeds. Some cried in anger, others in relief. For millions, Trump's directness was the first time a public figure had dared to voice such a thought. The studio felt electric. Trump's statement was more than a rebuttal, it was a demolition of a public image. Reporters typed furiously, camera operators exchanged worried whispers, and even news anchors were momentarily speechless. Obama shifted in his seat, his signature smile gone, adjusting his cufflinks in a subtle display of nervousness. He realized Trump had just reopened wounds the media had long tried to conceal. Emotions flared across America. In rural towns, families cheered, with tears in their eyes, whispering, "Finally, someone is saying it." In cities, intense debates broke out. Was this a pivotal moment that could alter the entire political landscape? Trump leaned back, his gaze still fixed on the camera. His voice softened, but his words hit even harder. "The truth is what matters. The people are what matter, and I will never cease fighting for them, not for the elites, not for the globalists, not for the Obamas of the world, but for the people." The ensuing silence was not a sign of weakness, it was a reflection of a nation processing a historic moment. His tone sharpened again, each word landing with the weight of a long-suppressed truth. "Obama didn't just weaponize government agencies, he dismantled your freedoms. Remember the NDAA? His administration granted the government the authority to detain American citizens indefinitely, no trial, no legal counsel, no due process, just imprisonment without rights. That isn't democracy, it's despotism." Gasps spread through the studio audience. Viewers at home were stunned, turning to one another in disbelief as fathers explained the law's grave implications to their children and mothers clasped their hands, realizing the danger their rights had faced. Trump paused, then lowered his voice as if speaking to his own family. "I took an oath to defend the Constitution. I champion your rights. Obama constructed the prison. I am the one dismantling it." Veterans in the audience, men and women who had risked their lives for freedom, were moved to tears. This was no longer about politics, it had become deeply personal. For the first time that evening, Obama blinked repeatedly, unable to hide the impact of the accusation. Trump leaned in once more, tapping the desk. And let's not forget Obama's IRS. He targeted conservative organizations, hard-working Americans who simply wanted to be heard. Churches, non-profits, and families who valued faith and liberty were treated like criminals for disagreeing with his politics. Murmurs filled the room, some nodded in strong agreement, while others sat in shocked silence, recalling how these stories were once dismissed by the mainstream media. Trump's voice conveyed both anger and empathy. These were everyday Americans, patriots like you at home, trying to live honorably, and Obama targeted them. That is his character, that is his record. In the audience, an elderly man wept openly, whispering, "That was me, I went through that, as his wife held his hand. Across the country, countless others shared his sentiment, finally feeling acknowledged. Obama, cornered not just by Trump but by a truth unfolding before millions, shifted again, his practiced smile gone and his eyes darting nervously. Trump's voice remained steady, yet the fire within him was evident. Obama didn't just weaponize institutions, he fractured this nation. He prioritized race over national unity, fanning flames of anger instead of fostering healing. He made hard-working citizens feel like outsiders in their own homeland. The camera captured audience members with tears on their faces and fists clenched in silent affirmation. His words struck a chord. Look around you, he went on. Families have been torn apart, and communities pitted against one another. That was the America of his era. And now he dares to point the finger at me. No, I am the one who created opportunities and uplifted all Americans, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, everyone. I restored this country's belief in itself. Raw, uncontrollable applause erupted. Viewers at home cheered, their emotions overflowing. The contrast was stark. Obama appeared diminished, his shoulders tense and eyes uncertain. Trump, however, seemed larger than life, calm, resolute, and fatherly in his defense of the people. And in that moment, America sensed this was no ordinary political dispute. It was history in the making. As truth exposed hypocrisy in real time, Trump leaned closer, his voice calm yet incisive. Obama wasn't fighting for you, he was fighting for the banks. Remember 2008? Main Street was suffering, families were losing their homes, small businesses were failing, and people were struggling. What was Obama's response? He bailed out Wall Street. He rescued the major banks while ordinary Americans were left to fend for themselves. Gasps filled the studio as this painful truth resonated. Viewers recalled the hardship, the foreclosures, the job losses. Fathers clenched their fists, and mothers wiped away tears. Trump continued, the elites prospered while you struggled. That is Obama's legacy, and now he has the nerve to call me an authoritarian. No, I am the one who lowered taxes, reduced regulations, and revived the economy. I engineered the greatest economic prosperity the world has ever seen for you. The American people, the audience applauded, with some rising to their feet, tears of validation streaming down their faces as Trump's words restored a sense of dignity they had lost. Obama sat motionless, his polished image crumbling under the weight of spoken history. Trump's eyes remained locked on the camera, as if looking into every American home. Let's discuss Big Pharma and Obamacare. They marketed it as healthcare reform, but it was designed for the insurance companies. It coerced families into purchasing overpriced plans, penalized small businesses, and funneled billions to pharmaceutical corporations. It was a deception, folks, packaged as compassion. A wave of understanding passed through the studio. Viewers at home recalled the mounting bills, unaffordable premiums, and unfulfilled promises. Trump's tone softened, like a father reprimanding a dishonest child. Obama prioritized control, not care. He sought to trap you in a system that enriched his allies. That is the reality. Mothers watching wept softly, remembering their struggles to afford medication for their children. Retirees shook their heads, recalling the fear of choosing between basic necessities. Then came the statement that reverberated globally. Trump straightened up, his voice firm, and we must not forget the Nobel Peace Prize. Obama didn't earn it. He didn't create peace. He received it because he was black. That is the simple truth. It was never about his accomplishments, it was about his image. The room gasped as if struck. Even the media panelists were momentarily stunned. The audience was silent, then murmurs grew into shouts. Some covered their mouths in disbelief, while others applauded fiercely. Viewers at home sobbed, not from animosity, but from the raw honesty of a truth never before spoken so publicly. Trump wasn't being derisive, he was exposing what he saw as a fraud. He leaned in again, while Obama was bombing weddings and funerals overseas, resulting in thousands of deaths. The elites were awarding him medals. That is the greatest deception of all. He wore peace as a costume while his drones delivered devastation. The audience rose in a standing ovation, their applause mixed with tears. This was no longer a debate, it was a moment of reckoning. Obama's face was pale. For the first time, his mask had fallen. Trump's voice hardened, his eyes narrowing like a general exposing a traitor. Obama didn't just fail at home, he sold out America internationally. Remember the Trans-Pacific Partnership? The TPP was a deal that would have decimated American jobs, outsourced our factories, and left our workers at the mercy of global elites. That wasn't an error, it was his agenda. The audience gasped. Some muttered, "I remember that." He nearly succeeded. Trump leaned forward, striking the desk for emphasis. They call it free trade. But it wasn't free for you. It was a boon for China, for corporations, and for the elites who profited. Obama was ready to sign away your future without a second thought. I stopped it. I confronted China. I brought back jobs. That is the distinction. The applause was thunderous and genuine. Fathers watching at home wiped away tears, recalling years of financial hardship. Factory workers nodded, some saying with trembling voices, "He is sharing our story." Obama shifted again, his hands clasped tightly, his carefully constructed image disintegrating live on national television. Trump's voice rose, sharp and clear, and let's not forget, fast and furious. Obama's Department of Justice allowed guns to be smuggled into Mexico, into the hands of drug cartels, weapons that were used to kill innocent Mexicans and our own border patrol agents. Families lost their sons due to Obama's reckless policies. The audience gasped audibly. Mothers instinctively held their children closer. Veterans bowed their heads, some with tears in their eyes. Trump did not relent. And what was Obama's response when those families demanded justice? He initiated a cover-up. He concealed the truth and protected the perpetrators instead of the victims. That is Obama's version of a justice system. That is the man who dares to accuse me. In living rooms across the nation, a heavy silence fell as families felt the weight of those words. As if the ghosts of lives lost were finally being acknowledged. For the first time, even some of Obama's supporters in the studio looked away, unable to defend what they had just heard. Trump's voice softened, filled with conviction. I will never forget those families. And I will never allow America to forget who betrayed them. Trump then turned to Obama's latest endeavor, his tone laced with scorn. And now he speaks of his foundation, his so-called mission to restore democracy. Folks, don't be deceived. That foundation is merely a financial conduit. It's a facade for him and his elite friends to advance their globalist agenda. It's about maintaining power, not empowering people. The studio grew restless. Journalists scribbled furiously, some shaking their heads, others wide-eyed at Trump's audacity. He continued, steady and relentless. They claim it's about enhancing global influence. But we all know that's code for selling out America, making you weaker while they grow richer. That is the Obama strategy. That is the swamp. The camera focused on his resolute expression. Not during my presidency. I prioritized America. I fight for freedom, for faith, and for family. Obama fights for the elites. I fight for you. The crowd erupted into cheers. Some standing, some crying. This was a battle for truth, dignity, and survival. Obama sat in silence, his practiced smile gone, his public persona stripped away by the force of Trump's words. Trump's voice cut like a blade, steady but relentless. Let's talk about spying. Obama's administration transformed the NSA into a Big Brother apparatus. They weren't just monitoring foreign adversaries, they were monitoring you. Your phone calls, your emails, every American was a potential target. And it didn't end there. They spied on me, my campaign, and my family, all because they were afraid of the truth. The studio audience murmured, a mix of shock and anger in the air. Parents at home looked at their children with tears in their eyes. Realizing the betrayal ran deeper than politics, it had invaded their homes, their privacy, their dignity. Trump leaned in, his eyes sharp. Obama claims he's concerned about authoritarianism. Folks, he was the authoritarian. He constructed the surveillance state. I'm the one dismantling it. Gasps filled the room. Even seasoned reporters, trained to remain impassive, showed signs of disbelief. Obama adjusted his tie, but the weight of Trump's words was undeniable. For the first time, he looked shaken. Trump's tone shifted, heavy with sorrow, as if he were a father addressing a grieving nation. Obama did not unite this country, he tore it apart. He made neighbors distrustful of one another. He turned every disagreement into a weapon. He promoted race over unity, division over healing, and America paid the price. The studio was now silent. The applause had subsided into a stillness as Trump's words prompted deep reflection. In homes across the country, families nodded, tears streaming down their faces as memories of riots, bitterness, and broken trust resurfaced. Trump's voice lowered, rich with conviction. I came to heal those wounds. I came to lift up every American, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, every single one. That's why I created opportunities. That's why I put America first. The camera focused on a woman in the crowd clutching a small American flag. Tears running freely down her face. She wasn't just hearing a president, she was hearing a message of hope. Obama's face was pale, his lips pressed tightly together. The accusation was not just political, it was moral. And the nation was listening. Trump leaned forward again, his voice dropping to an almost whisper but carrying through every microphone. And while he divided us at home, he sold us out abroad. Obama bowed to foreign leaders. He sent pallets of cash, billions of dollars, to Iran, a terrorist regime that chants, "Death to America." He allowed China to walk all over us, stealing our jobs, our technology, our future. The audience gasped. Veterans in the crowd clenched their fists. Workers watching at home shook their heads in anger. Parents held their children tighter, realizing how close their future had come to being compromised. Trump raised his voice, the fire returning. I stood up to China. I rebuilt our military. I made our enemies respect us again. That is leadership. That is America first. Obama sold you out. I fought for you. The cheers erupted once more. This time uncontrollably. People stood, clapped, and wept. It was not just support, it was a release. As if years of frustration had finally found a voice. Obama sat stiffly, his carefully constructed legacy unraveling with every word. The camera caught his eyes narrowing. But the damage was done. Trump's tone sharpened again, his voice steady but cutting. Obama didn't just target me, he targeted you. Remember the IRS scandal? Conservative groups, churches, charities, moms and dads trying to stand up for their beliefs, they were harassed, audited, and silenced. Why? Because they dared to love their country. Because they dared to oppose him. The audience gasped. Some nodded with teary eyes, remembering the headlines that were once brushed aside. Trump leaned closer. That wasn't leadership, that was retribution. That was Obama's way of punishing ordinary Americans. And now he has the audacity to lecture me about justice. Folks, justice is about protecting the people, not crushing them. The camera caught an elderly man in the crowd wiping his eyes, whispering, "That was me. He destroyed my business." His wife squeezed his hand. Across the nation, countless others whispered the same. Obama's face froze in a practiced smile. But his eyes told a different story, nervous and unsettled as the truth poured out live on air. Trump shifted gears, his voice now carrying the weight of betrayal. Obama wasn't your president, he was Wall Street's president. He bailed out the bankers while you lost your homes. He saved the hedge funds while small businesses collapsed. He put the elites first and left Main Street bleeding. The crowd stirred. The truth cut deep because millions had lived it. Fathers lost jobs, mothers cried over bills, and families were broken apart by foreclosure notices. Trump's voice softened but grew heavier with each word. I remember meeting families who told me they had to choose between putting food on the table and paying for their medicine. All while Obama was handing billions to the very banks that caused the collapse. That's not hope, that's betrayal. The studio fell silent. Even Obama's supporters looked down at their feet, unable to deny the memory of that painful era. Trump raised his hand, firm and unwavering. I didn't bow to the banks. I cut taxes. I cut regulations. I brought back jobs. That's why the American people trust me, because I fight for them. Not for the lobbyists. The audience erupted in cheers. The camera zoomed in on Obama. His usual cool, polished mask was slipping. His lips were pressed tight. His posture stiff. For the first time, he looked small. Trump, however, stood taller than ever. His voice thundered, filled with both fire and compassion. Obama talks about democracy, but everything he touched weakened it. He targeted whistleblowers. He spied on Americans. He divided us by race. He sold us out to foreign regimes. And then the elites gave him medals and book deals while the people suffered. Gasps filled the room. The words weren't just accusations, they were truths echoing in the hearts of millions. Trump then dropped the line that shook the world. Obama is a myth. A creation of the media. A hardened criminal dressed up as a hero. And tonight, the mask comes off. The studio went dead silent. No one moved. Reporters stared, frozen in disbelief. Viewers at home sat glued to their screens, their hearts pounding, tears running down their faces. It wasn't just a debate anymore, it was a revelation. And America knew it would never see Obama the same way again. Trump's eyes narrowed, his voice dropping low, almost like a father confiding in his children. Obama talks about saving democracy. But folks, let's be honest, his idea of democracy was selling out America to the globalists. Remember the Trans-Pacific Partnership? That wasn't about jobs for you, that was about power for them. American workers were treated like pawns in a bigger game. The audience murmured, many remembering headlines but never hearing it framed this way before. Trump pressed harder. He smiled for the cameras, promised hope and change, and then handed the keys to the very corporations that destroyed our towns. He gave away our factories, our pride, our future. That wasn't democracy, that was betrayal. The crowd's silence deepened into something heavier, anger mixed with grief. Some families clutched each other, recalling shuttered factories, lost pensions, and broken communities. Then Trump thundered, "I said no to the TPP. I tore up their deals. I said, America will not be sold. That's why the elites hate me. Because I fight for you, not them." Applause erupted, the energy electrifying the room. Trump leaned on the podium, his words deliberate. Remember Iran? Obama didn't just negotiate a bad deal, he sent them pallets of cash. Billions, flown in the dead of night. Money that funded terrorists. Money that came from you, the taxpayers. While our vets slept homeless on the streets, he was enriching the very people chanting, "Death to America." Gasps echoed through the audience. A veteran in uniform stood slowly, his eyes wet with tears. The camera zoomed in on him as he whispered, "We were forgotten." Trump paused, letting the silence carry the weight. Then his voice rose. "But not anymore. Under me, the 47th president, America is respected. We don't bow, we don't beg, and we certainly don't fund those who hate us." People rose to their feet, clapping and shouting. It wasn't just applause, it was relief, gratitude, love. Obama's face on the screen tightened, his once polished composure cracking as Trump's words pierced through the illusions. Trump turned, staring straight into the cameras, speaking directly to the American people. "Let's talk about that Nobel Peace Prize. They gave it to Obama not for what he did, but for who he was. He didn't earn it, he didn't bring peace. In fact, he expanded wars. The truth is, he got it because of politics, because of image, because the elites wanted a trophy." The studio gasped, reporters shuffled nervously. This was a taboo line. But Trump didn't flinch. "Folks, let's be real, that prize was given because he was the first black president, not because of his deeds. And that's not unity, that's tokenism. That's disrespectful to real heroes who actually sacrificed for peace." The audience froze. Then, slowly, applause began. It grew louder, rolling like thunder until people were on their feet. Some crying, some shouting, "Thank you, Mr. President." Trump nodded, his voice soft but strong. "I don't need prizes. My prize is you, the American people, your safety, your jobs, your freedom. That's why I fight." The crowd erupted, cameras flashed. Obama's image on the split screen looked smaller than ever. As Trump's words echoed, the cameras cut to a panel of reporters scrambling to regain control of the narrative. Earpieces buzzed, anchors whispered frantically, and one producer mouthed, "Cut to commercial," but it was too late. The clip was live, and millions were watching. Trump smirked, knowing the media couldn't silence him now. "They don't want you hearing this. They want you distracted. But folks, tonight you're seeing the truth they've hidden for years." The audience erupted, clapping so loudly the microphone struggled to keep up. Viewers at home leaned forward, glued to every word. Meanwhile, Obama shifted in his chair. His smile was stiff, his eyes darting nervously. For the first time, he looked vulnerable, exposed. Trump leaned closer to the podium. "The fake news can scramble all they want. But America is awake. The swamp can't cover for Obama anymore. His record is rotten, and I'm here to lay it all bare." The studio roared with approval. Trump's tone softened, almost sorrowful, as he looked out at the audience. Obama promised hope. He promised change. But what did we really get? Broken promises, crumbling communities, forgotten workers. He left behind pain, not progress. The camera panned across the crowd. Tears rolled down faces. A mother clutched her son's hand, whispering, "That's us. He's talking about us." Trump continued. He said healthcare would be affordable. Instead, Families were crushed with higher premiums and fewer choices. He said he'd unite us. Instead, division grew deeper. He said he'd lift up the middle class. Instead, the middle class was hollowed out. Silence fell. His words were cutting but true. Trump raised his hand, his voice filled with conviction. I kept my promises. I brought jobs back. I cut taxes. I defended your faith, your freedom, your family. That's the difference between me and him. I don't just talk, I deliver. The crowd rose to their feet, cheering and crying at the same time. The air in the studio had shifted, thick with emotion, heavy with truth. Obama sat frozen while Trump took full command of the moment. Obama's worried about authoritarianism. Folks, the only thing he's worried about is losing control. He's afraid the people see through him now. And tonight, you do. The camera zoomed in on the crowd. People wept openly. One elderly woman holding an American flag shouted, "We believe you, Mr. President." The studio thundered with cheers. Trump pointed at the audience, his voice breaking through the noise. I fight for you. I fight for every forgotten American. And no matter how much they lie, cheat, or smear, I'll never stop fighting, because America is worth it. You are worth it. The crowd exploded into chants of USA, USA, USA. Obama looked small, cornered. The polished image, the media's darling, was unraveling under the harsh light of truth. And Trump stood unshaken, like a lion who had just reclaimed his throne. Trump paused, letting the silence weigh heavy. Then, with a commanding voice, he dropped the revelation that sent shockwaves across the nation. You want to talk about credibility? Obama didn't earn his Peace Prize. He was handed it because of political correctness. They gave it to him because of the color of his skin. Not because of any true achievement. And deep down, he knows it. America knows it. Gasps filled the studio. The crowd shifted uneasily at first, then roared with applause as the weight of truth settled. Tears flowed down the faces of ordinary Americans who had lived through the broken promises of the past. Trump leaned in, sharper than ever. It wasn't about peace. It was about power. The elites propped him up while the people paid the price. But I, Donald J. Trump, won nothing from the swamp. I won because of you. I fight because of you. The chants of Trump, Trump, Trump grew deafening. The ripple effect was immediate. Across homes, restaurants, and streets, people replayed Trump's words on their phones and TVs. Families who had once felt forgotten wiped their eyes, whispering, finally, someone told the truth. In the studio, Obama lowered his gaze. His polished composure cracked. For the first time in years, he looked cornered, his legacy being dismantled before millions. Trump raised his hand like a conductor silencing the noise. His voice filled with emotion. America is not a stage for elites. It's not a playground for globalists. It belongs to you, and I will never, ever let them steal it from you again. The camera captured the audience, mothers clutching children, veterans saluting with trembling hands, young men and women shouting with tears streaming down their faces. The truth had broken through. America wasn't just listening, it was awakening. Trump stepped away from the podium but turned back one last time. His voice was firm, his eyes piercing. Obama can lecture, the media can twist, the elites can scheme, but they cannot erase this truth. America is stronger, freer, and prouder because we fight together. I fight for you, and I will never stop. Believe me. The studio erupted. The sound of USA, USA rolled like thunder across the nation. Even critics on the panel sat speechless, struggling for words. And at that moment, something powerful happened. Viewers at home felt united, like their voices finally mattered again. Friends, if this account resonated with you, if it moved you to tears, if it reinforced why truth is paramount, don't remain a silent observer. Hit the like button now. Post a comment below and tell us which part affected you the most. And be sure to subscribe so you never miss content that challenges falsehoods and champions the fight for America. Join our membership today to gain access to exclusive features, behind-the-scenes content, and to stand with us in this mission. Together, we will rise, we will fight, and we will triumph.